So just as I said, my name's Clodagh O'Donovan. As I'm sure you can tell by the accent, I am a Corkonian, Cork through and through. I'm also a female founder. I live in Middleton in East Cork with my husband and 2 kids. And I set up Advanced HR in January of 2020. Not prepared for what was coming next, but anyway. And yeah, the idea was that I had worked for about 20 years in HR, and I felt that I was needing a new challenge. And what better challenge than to go out and set up as an independent HR consultant. So that's what I did. And I suppose from the point of view of Advanced HR, I would partner a lot with micros and SMEs. And the whole objective, I suppose, from where I come from is to make sure that employers have time to focus on their business and serving their customers, and knowing that their HR compliance and their employees are in good hands. So I'm all about setting managers and employers up to successfully manage those 2 things. So just moving on then.
Yeah, you should.
Oh yeah, sorry. I have, yeah, we don't have to get into detail of what I have. So I mentioned that because not everybody here is a member, I suppose, or has a team. There are a couple of things about when it might be the time to take somebody on. So we're just going to have a look at what some of those indicators might look like. And then we're going to talk about how to attract the right person to your business. How to keep them. So once you have the right talent, how do you nurture them? How do you keep them? How do you retain them and stop them looking at greener pastures? And then if it's all working out really well, what does success look like? So they're kind of the 3 main areas I'm going to focus on. So with regards to the right time to hire, so can I just ask a question there of the people who have joined, both in the room here and online? Can you let me know if you have employees at the moment? Anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And online? Yeah. Okay, great. And how long have you had, so are of the people who have employees, is it your own business? Yeah. Okay. And no, mixture. Okay. So for the people who have their own business, what point was it that you felt it was the right time to take somebody on for the first time? Does anybody want to?
Yeah, when it was just too much work.
Yeah.
For one person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the skills as well. Like, for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a kind of a key moment when you know that you want to bring the business in a certain direction, and you recognize that you might not necessarily have everything that's needed to go there, and that you need to bring additional skills and experience into your business to achieve that goal. Yeah. So like one of the indicators would be too much work kind of and too little time. So you're really struggling to keep up with demand, and you find that you're constantly playing catch up. Another thing to watch out for is when your attention's on the wrong stuff. So if you're spending a lot of time on aspects of your business that aren't really adding much value, they're not bringing in more customers, they're not giving you an opportunity to profile your business and market your business, then it could be time to bring somebody in so that you can delegate some of the stuff that is taking your time to allow you focus more on developing your business. Often it gets to the point as well where the customer service gets to the point where it's not where the levels that you would like it to be. So especially when we first start off, we want to have superb customer service, and that's really what we build our reputation on. And as we get busier and as we want to grow our business more, we suddenly realize that maybe customer service is actually suffering a small bit. And if that is, if you are at that point within your business, it could be time to start thinking about bringing somebody in. Often as well, you could be looking at where you want to bring your business, and there may be opportunities to generate more revenue. However, you don't have the capacity just yourself to do that and achieve that. So again, it's another indicator that maybe now is the right time to bring somebody in. So we're just going to move on then. And some of the questions that you want to ask yourself if you are at that point, you're going to ask yourself, do I need to hire somebody or do I need to outsource? So there is a difference depending on what your objective is. So if the objective is to free you up to spend more time on focusing and developing your business, and you don't necessarily have the expertise that is required to do other aspects of the business the way you want it to be, then maybe you outsource. So the example I always use is when I was setting up Advanced HR, the first thing I did was I got an accountant and I got them to set up my company because I didn't have a clue and I didn't really have much of an interest at that point in time finding out how I went about it, because I had a very eager client that wanted me to work 2 to 3 days a week in their business. So that is something I outsourced from the very beginning, and I continue to outsource it. Other areas might be things like social media. So depending on your business, it might make more sense to outsource your social media. However, if you're looking to bring your business to the next level, and maybe you want to have somebody like a marketing consultant, maybe then you need to hire somebody in rather than outsource. So that's a question for you to ask yourself. And depending on where you're at, you will have, you will come to the answer. Then the next question you need to ask yourself is, can I afford to pay an employee long term? So it's fine to be kind of thinking about the short term, but it's a commitment. So when you're bringing an employee into your business, there is a commitment there. So it's important to give that, due consideration and make sure that you're comfortable enough. Now, look, nobody can predict the future. I think 2020 showed us all of that. However, there are certain indicators that will show you whether or not you can support an employee on a long-term basis. And then the last point, which I think is something that people really have to give thought to, is, am I ready to share my baby? So, you've created your business, you've developed your brand, you've developed a fantastic reputation within your clients and your customer group. Are you ready now to share your secrets with somebody else coming in? Because to set them up for success, you will need to do that. And so asking yourself that question and spending a bit of time reflecting on it is, again, an important thing to do before you take the next step. Any questions?
No, that's good.
Okay. So what do you do next? Well, the first thing you do is you talk to your accountant, okay? Have a chat with them. This is what I'm planning to do. I'm either going to outsource X, Y, and Z, or I'm thinking of hiring an employee. And by consulting with them, you'll get a good feel for whether or not it's a good idea for you to invest in somebody coming into your business. And once you've made that decision, the next thing to do is to look at what it is you're doing and where you're spending your time and what activities you're doing that is taking the most time and the most attention, and then assessing how much value are they adding to your overall business. The reason you're going to do this is because through this exercise, you will identify what areas you can delegate within your business and what areas you want to hold on to yourself. So it could be you want to hold on to areas because you really enjoy doing that side of it, or it could be that you feel that's where your particular skill set lies and you want to hold on to that. And then there are other areas, like we all have them, the ones that we absolutely do not enjoy, but we have to do. So it's a great opportunity when you're bringing somebody into your business to look and figure out what works best when you're looking at the delegation of things. And the next step then is to, when you've decided on the areas or the tasks that you would like to delegate to somebody coming into the business, the next thing is to look at what are the skills and experience that is needed in order for the person to be successful in completing those activities. So you might look to yourself and see, well, what did I need to be successful? You might look to other people that you know have more experience and are more qualified, and just get a feel for what that looks like. This information is going to be critical when you're going to put out your job description, telling people about this amazing job in your fabulous business. So a few tips and tricks with regards to approaching the hiring process, I suppose. So the very first thing I say is don't rush the process. So what I mean by that is sometimes it can get to the point where there is so much pressure on the solopreneur that they rush a hiring decision because they just need somebody, anybody. And that often doesn't work out well, okay? And ultimately people end up parting ways. So if you are under a lot of pressure and you've decided I need to bring somebody into my business, think about the short-term options that you might have initially. So maybe you can hire somebody on a contractor basis. Maybe there's a freelance person within your area of business or who's experienced in the areas that you need help with. Perhaps you can engage them for a short term, while in the background you're figuring out how to attract and attract the right talent into your business. So don't rush it. I suppose when it comes to the process, it really does start off with considering what it is you want the person to do. So a lot of what you have done up to now, which is looking at the tasks and the activities that are taking your attention and figuring out where you're spending your time, this is when that really comes into play, because now you know exactly where you're spending your time, what you're doing. You can now build your job description around that. Now, it can help if you can, I suppose, narrow the role to like a certain area so that you're not expecting somebody to come in and do bits of everything. Because while they may be able to do that, they won't be able to do everything to the standard that you're looking for. So you need to make sure that if you have a role, we'll say, for example, maybe it's sales and marketing, that kind of goes together. You can create a very clever job description to attract the right person. But if you're also looking for somebody to send out invoices and chase up on invoices that haven't been paid, etc., then perhaps that's a separate thing that you need to do. Okay, so it's really just taking your time, figuring out what it is you want, what you need in order to be able to run your business the way you want it to. And I have the next thing as being the eye-catching job description. So I say to people, don't underestimate the power of a job description. And the ultimate goal when you put a job description out there is you want people to stop scrolling. Okay, that endless scroll. You want to stop the scroll. You do that by having a very powerful statement at the beginning of your job description and by not having it very text heavy. So you see these job descriptions, you know what I'm talking about. And there's just reams and reams of bullet points and everything, including the kitchen sink is included. And you don't really get a feel for what that job is. You know everything that it might involve, but on a day-to-day basis, you don't really know what it looks like. You keep scrolling. So what you want to do is you want somebody to read the job description, have a good idea what it would look like if they were working in your business, doing that job, and be able to see themselves being successful. So that's the kind of picture you want to paint with your job description. And it takes a bit of time to get there, but that investment is really worthwhile because then you have a job description that speaks to the people you want to attract. So when you have something that you cannot compromise on, whether it's previous sales experience, whether it's previous accounts experience, whatever it might be, you put that in and make it very clear. And then you have a great platform from which you can look and assess people's suitability when the applications start coming in. If you word it in such a way that you are talking to a very specific person or type of candidate, that is what you will attract. And that ultimately you spend less time then going through applications from people that don't meet the mark. But even if you do receive those kind of applications, it's okay, because you'll quickly be able to see by looking at the job description, this isn't suitable, so we're going to park that one here. Okay. And the other thing about the job description that I always recommend my clients do is, if you offer something different to your competitor, whatever that might be, make sure you put that up in lights, because not everybody's going to know about it. So for example, if you are, I'm trying to think now, so there are some businesses and they can't afford to offer, you know, big compensation packages. Okay, when you're a smaller business, that's just not within your remit. But you can be very creative about it, and you can offer things that won't cost you the earth, but that will mean a lot to an employee. Maybe it's a discount within, you know, for the service or product that you're providing. Perhaps it's an incentive for them to achieve a certain goal or a certain target, and they get something in return. And it does not have to break the bank. You know, there are other options that you have that you can encourage people in. Some people are using mindfulness subscriptions as a way of attracting people. And I suppose there is a lot of focus on mental health. There's a lot of people who want to know that their employer is aware of the importance of mental health. So that's sending a message. And again, if that's something that you can offer that your competitors don't, it sets you apart and makes you more attractive. The next area then, what I always say is, ensure that every candidate has a positive experience. All right. So what I mean by that is, when somebody sends you their application or sends you their CV, acknowledge it. I don't mean you have to go back individually to 100 people and send them an email. It can be done actually very easily and quickly in about 30 to 60 seconds. So what I do when I'm offering this kind of hiring support to my clients is, after the deadline for the application process has passed, I gather all the email addresses, I pop them into the BCC field, and I send an acknowledgement email to say, thank you very much for your interest in the business. We are going through the applications that we've received, and we will be in touch should you be successful to move to the next stage. So just 3 sentences, 30 to 60 seconds, and everybody gets responded to. And it really is very, very worthwhile to do, because people aren't expecting to hear back these days. So it's another way that you can set yourself apart from your competitors, and it doesn't take that much time. So, and the other side of it then is, by saying that, you're letting people know that they're not going to hear more again from you unless they're moving forward. So there's no need to be going back and constantly updating people. That's it. If you're contacting them again, it's because you want to meet them. Another way you can ensure a positive candidate experience is when you meet the person. I know that it's so difficult. You're up the walls, you're concentrating on 10,000 things at once, but please read the person's CV or application before you meet them. Even if you can just pick out 2 to 3 things to just delve into a little bit more. Number one, it shows a genuine interest in the person. Okay, and they're thinking to themselves, oh, I'm glad I took the time to come and meet. Because remember, it's not just you wanting to attract them, they want to be attracted as well. Is that right? Yeah. So what you want to do is you want to create that impression that you're genuinely interested, but also by going through the CV, it serves a purpose for you, because you can look at the areas within the CV that you want to delve into further that will give you the information you need to make an informed decision on whether this is the right person for you or not. So having a little template, 4 to 5 questions, everybody has the same experience, everybody gets asked the same questions, but perhaps the follow-ups are going to be a little bit different depending on what the response is. But again, it's just creating that positive candidate experience. And even if the person isn't successful, isn't it nice that they've had such an experience? And they will talk about that. They equally will talk about when they don't have a nice experience. And you never know, that person mightn't have been the right fit for you today, but who knows, in the 6 months' time, they could be exactly who you're looking for. And if they've had a great positive interaction with you, then they'll be happy to hear from you again further down the line. So once you've completed your interviews and you have decided on who you're going to hire into your business, then you want to make sure that there's complete transparency. And this actually covers a lot. So it's transparent in regards to what it is you want them to do in your business, how you want them to do it, what success will look like. It's also transparency when it comes to you sharing your trade secrets to a certain degree, because again, you must remember you want to set them up to succeed. And if you are willing to share information and you're willing to set them up well from the very beginning, then they will be successful. So having a few simple goals and objectives, and I'm not talking about like 8 or 9 and having them really complex. I'm talking about really simple language. And even just for those first 6 months of probation, it is so important that people know what's expected of them. And having those like 4 to 5 basic, simple language goals will make it a lot easier for you to assess the performance. Because very often we have our ideas in our head about what we expect, but we don't always relay them to another person. And they're not, let's say telepathy skills, they're not going to get it. So it's important that you share with that person what you expect them to do, how you expect them to do it, and what success will look like at the end of the day. And having that open and transparent conversation at the beginning, it will help set them up for success. And then have the little check-in points with them. So again, it doesn't have to be formal. A check-in on week 1, just to make sure they're settling in okay, that they have everything they need. And especially if it is just you and them initially, and if there's a few others within your business and you have a new person starting, maybe you just assign somebody to them that can be like their buddy. And again, that doesn't have to be a big deal. It can be just something so straightforward as that's the person you have a chat with if you have any questions, if you're unsure of anything, even if you have something you just want to bounce off somebody, that's your person. And it's lovely because it gives that new person a bit of confidence that there's somebody there to support them in their very first day. And then having those little goals will make it easier for you to assess performance as you go along. And when you're having those informal check-in chats with them, you will be able to see if they're meeting the objectives, and if not, you can have the conversation really early on. And a lot of it is raising awareness to the fact that the person isn't doing what they should be doing or what they need to do. And if it's not working out, then, there's a tough decision that needs to be made there. But at least if you're doing that within your 6 months of probation, you're giving both people a chance to either become aligned with what it is you're looking for, or to you part ways. And, that doesn't necessarily mean a negative thing. Sometimes it's best for people to part ways because it was never going to be a successful relationship in the first place, and they were never going to be able to achieve what you want them to, and of course what they want to do. Because when people start a new job, they have ideas in their heads as to what it's going to look like and what they want to get out of it as well. And then the recognize and reward. So very similar to the approach that you're taking when you're looking at what you can offer people, the same comes to recognize and reward. The most simple ways of acknowledging somebody's contribution, their value to your business, will be just as appreciated as the multinationals that can offer massive bonuses. And because the underlying thing behind it is the person is receiving acknowledgement. Okay, now don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing a €10,000 bonus to like a voucher for a restaurant, but I suppose what I am trying to say is that it's all about the acknowledgement, and that somebody wants to feel that what they're doing is contributing in a valuable way, that it's perceived in a positive way, and they're making a difference. That's really what it comes down to. For most people, they want to make a difference. So things like a voucher for a meal out for themselves and one other person, this is now, I'm not saying you do this every month or anything like that, but if you really wanted to acknowledge somebody, if you wanted to show them that you value them as a member of your team, they're the kind of things that you can do that won't break the bank, but will send a nice message to your person. And then if you're going to recognize their contributions and their value in that way, they're more likely to want to stay with you and be committed to you and what you want to achieve for your business. And that's especially relevant in smaller businesses, because when you're a part of a smaller business, you're part of everything. You get to see the whole entire picture. So if you can get your employee to buy into that, and then you recognize and reward their efforts as much as you can, then you're really setting yourself up to successfully retain that employee. I'm just going to take a pause and see if there's any questions, if anybody wants to add anything. No? Okay. What about the people here who have staff? What are your challenges at the moment? Are you finding people are engaged? Talk to me, because I've been talking for ages and now I need somebody to talk back at me. I'm going to eyeball you here in the room. So just for the people online, there's a few people here in the meeting room where the presentation, but I've been totally talking into the camera the whole time, so I'm ignoring them. But they are here, and there's a couple of them that have employees. So now I'm going to just target them. So how many employees do you have?
5.
5. And how long since you took on your first employee?
3 years ago, the first one.
3 years.
A couple this year as well.
And a couple this year.
Kind of 1 or 2 a year.
Yeah, yeah. And was it a good decision when you first took somebody in? Did it work out well?
It's not my own company, so it was kind of funded by a company in the US, but the office is based in Cork. So like, we like the whole Cork team or the development team is based here. So
right.
do the hiring.
Yeah.
I think the hardest thing for me is actually the hiring part. You know.
Yeah.
Once we have them, I think it's a bit different with COVID. Like, you know, people remote and in. It's harder to keep that kind of like culture stuff there.
It is, yeah.
But so far it's been okay to keep people on. Like once to work, I suppose, giving them work that they're interested in, I find is probably the key thing. You know? Yeah,
definitely. And I think as well, playing to people's strengths. Yeah. So like, you know, there's nothing worse if you have somebody and you know that they're not very strong in a particular area and trying to really pull them along. You're better off just to find somebody else that can fill in that gap and play to their strengths then, so that they that you're getting the most out of them and keeping them engaged, you know. And what about you? You said you have staff as well.
Yeah, so Gavin, same size team, although some of my staff, a couple of them work on other projects as well.
Okay.
So sometimes I say it's like 6.5 or 7.5.
Right.
But yeah, the challenges again, we worked together in the past in the private sector, and culture was kind of an easier thing to embed then, because you're in the office and getting that engagement and stuff like that. So yeah, it's absolutely fantastic, the flexibility of people working from home, but it is a challenge these days to get that kind of culture
and to get the balance.
Yeah, to get the balance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And what do you find has worked? Are you still figuring it out?
It's worked. Everyone that's in the company loves working for the company, but I found like Gavin, it's a case of having them work on stuff that they're good at they enjoy. It's typically the same thing a lot of the time. Sometimes it's not, right. Sometimes you have a fantastic salesperson that hates sales, but they're actually great at that.
Yeah.
You know. So it's not always that way.
No, it's trying to bring them along, and if not, then it's it's hard. It is, and it's very frustrating as well, because you can see that they're so brilliant at it if they could just, you know, get into that mindset. And I know you were saying
we're salon based, so we're slightly different, but we have 14 staff. So we do a lot of training, because obviously we get people out of college. So it's kind of actually teaching them a lot as well about HR policies, procedures. They're literally straight out of college. So and training them, obviously, and customer service is a huge one. But our industry is quite tough at the moment. We found no one within 2 years, but we hired 3 girls now.
Okay.
Which is great. So our recruitment is just over, but there's always someone leaving or, you know, something moving away and stuff. Because again, we hire young staff. And so they're traveling, they want to start a new course. So we're not constantly in recruitment. Like we have staff members since we opened. There's always someone coming and going.
There is, and I think a lot of people within the industry as well during COVID, they went back, they retrained, and they've made decisions that they don't want to do that anymore. And like and within hospitality as well.
We ourselves too, like we changed, like we have a 4-day week now, so you can do 4 long days, a better work-life balance. So it's not like if you can't do your 9 to 5, we open 8 to 7. So we kind of looked at that, and I think that it gained us a good amount of staff then as well, you know.
Absolutely, because like, and that's the thing, like, you know, flexibility, it means something different for every business, you know, and it means something different for every person as well, because they're all looking for different.
Their mothers, so they can't start early.
You
know, so we really looked at ourselves, and we changed a lot in the last 2 or 3 years. So in a good way.
No, and that is good, because that is what will attract people. You know, that they have that option of being able to be there for their kids and be able to work at the same time. Super. Anybody online that wants to join in or join the conversation? Anyone behind me?
We're joining. They're actually working here, so they're allowed to break it. Just
okay.
It was really interesting, and actually my mother is thinking of setting up a small business, so I was really interested, but it's over. So
Okay.
It was really interesting.
Okay.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you very much. See you. Bye. What are we doing for time?
we do have.
I was just going to talk, like, just before we kind of wrap it up, it's kind of more just like what success looks like. So I suppose from the point of view, if you're bringing somebody into your business, yes, there's an investment involved in that. However, you want to see a return on that investment as well. So ultimately, you want to see more money coming in. And if the person is set up in a great way from the very beginning, if you're transparent with them in every aspect, there's no reason why they won't be successful. And if they're successful, you will see that in regards to more generating more revenue. Your new hire is adding value to your business and your customers. So this is a really strong indicator that you've made the right decision to bring somebody in, number one, and that you got the right person. So if you find you're getting great feedback from your customers about the person, that is amazing. Make sure you share it with the person, with the employee, so that they know it as well. And that you can see that value as well. So when you start noticing the value that they are adding to both your business, to the customer experience, that's a great opportunity for you to sit down and start sharing that information, because that's going to be motivating. That's going to keep the employee engaged, and it's going to make them want to keep going that way and sustaining that performance level and continue to add value. I mentioned then that's the additional revenue that's coming in. Another sign of success is when you see that is covering the person's salary. So it may not always be that way. There may be times when it's not enough to cover the person's salary, but overall, once you're seeing that you're able to cover the salary without being under financial pressure, that is another indicator that you've made the right decision and it's working out very successfully for you and your business. And then the most important reason, and the main reason why you wanted to bring somebody into your business in the first place, is so that you have time to focus on the important stuff. So if you find that you're able to develop another idea, to invest in different areas, that you can spend less time in the day-to-day running of your business, but yet customers are still receiving the same level of service, they still have the same positive experience that they were receiving when you were in charge, then that's yet another sign of success. It means that you can go ahead and you can develop your business more, you can bring it to the next level, confident in knowing that your employee or employees are running the ship the way you want it to be. So yeah, does anybody, so again, I'm just going to pick on you because you've got staff. What kind of indicators did you see? Like, so when you first hired a person, like what was the first sign that, oh, this was definitely the right time to do that?
There's actually someone waiting to come in there, just want to have them in as well.
Oh.
Just for you.
Bit late.
Oh, that's Valerie. I know Val. She's another HR consultant. Is she there?
Yeah.
Where's she gone?
She's here, I think.
No.
Well, she's in.
Yeah. Grant. So yeah, sorry.
The indicators of when we can hire is it?
Yeah, so like, after you brought in the first employee, right?
Yeah.
Like what difference, I suppose, did that make then to you initially?
Yeah, I think that's it, like it frees up, like you mentioned one of the earlier slides, more time to focus on other stuff. So once you find yourself being dragged back down to helping out the new hire,
Yeah.
you realize, okay, they need support, we need to get a second person in.
Yeah.
That's kind of the main thing. So you kind of feel yourself kind of bouncing up and down a little bit,
Yeah.
doing the stuff that you need to focus on, then getting dragged like back to what you were doing.
Yeah.
And then you kind of feel like, okay, I'm back to where I was when I was on my own.
Yeah.
And that happens every time.
Yeah,
every time. So at
definitely.
the moment we're looking to hire now because I'm too busy doing what I shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And I think as well, when it's like that, it's not the worst thing because you kind of need to stay connected to the day-to-day stuff as well. So that, because like, just because something has been done this way now doesn't mean it should be done that way in 6 months' time. So it's good for you to be kind of drawn back in, I suppose. And as well for the person, it's great that they have that support as well, because absolutely setting them up at the start is important, but you need to continue to support them as well. And there's always going to be some area that they might struggle in and things like that. So knowing that they have that additional, I suppose, comfort blanket there, that they have that additional support is very important.
Yeah, try to like bring someone and leave them in a silo on their own, like, or I feel isolated.
Yeah.
I suppose having the support or letting them know that there is always supporters.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I suppose then, like, from the point of view, like, it's a difficult decision when you're trying to make it. And like, one of the things that people sometimes do, instead of bringing an employee in initially, is they might go down the road of a freelance person. And if it's for short-term engagement and that freelance person is earning income through other businesses and not just yours, that's okay on a short-term basis. However, it's not recommended that would turn into a long-term arrangement, because revenue will very quickly look at it and say, well, why aren't you hiring this person? If they're earning a lot of their income through you, then you should be their employer. So just to be mindful that you don't initially have to go straight into the employee employer relationship, that you have the option of exploring whether it's the right time for you to do it through a different arrangement like freelance. So that's it. Thank you very much for your attention and for listening to me talk all about attracting and retaining and all that good stuff. There's my contact details. I'd love to connect with you on the different social media platforms.